All right, so let's move on. So what is energy? Okay, so a lot of you guys have heard the term energy, right? The word energy. But what really is energy? So energy is all around us, okay? Even if you might not see it, energy is like basically all around us. So you may know energy from like electricity or like from the foods you eat, but electricity is literally just one form of energy. There's different types of energy, and more specifically, we got gravity, light, heat, and sound energy, right? So everything is energy. We also have a bunch of other energies right here: thermal energy, radiant energy, light energy, chemical energy, gravitation energy, electrical energy, like what you guys are familiar with, right? But basically, there's many different types of energies, and energy is all around us, right? You can't see energy, you can't sort of, oh, yeah, you just can't see energy. But um, an example is that if you put your hand over like a hot stove or over a fire, you feel like the heat, right? That's the energy. Specifically, it's a type of thermal energy, right? Like heat energy. You can feel the heat, right? The hotness, that's energy going into your hand or like touching you or something like that. But when you move your hand, the chemical energy inside of your head, or sorry, the chemical energy inside of your hand when you move your hand turns into mechanical energy, right? So yeah, when you move your hand, that's another type of energy transfer, right? Okay,
Is
Lucas, you have a question?
is energy is energy a type of gas or I is it a type of a gas that is one of the three states of matter?
Right. So energy is not a type of gas. Energy is like the simple definition of energy is the ability to do work. Basically, it just means that like energy is basically just means what it means like energy basically means like how things move, right? How things do work, right? So for example mechanical energy, right? This is basically just means that like things moving around, right? That's what mechanical energy is. So energy isn't a type of gas, and it isn't any three states of matter. It's
Thank
sort of just
you.
like, yeah, so it's sort of just like a measurement of like how things move around and how things do stuff, right? So when you move your hand around, that's mechanical energy, right? So yeah, you can't really see the energy, but the energy is basically making your hand move. Or when you move your hand, you make mechanical energy, if that makes any sense. But yeah, energy isn't a type of matter, or it isn't the three types of matter like liquid, gas, or solid. It isn't that. It's just like something that it's just the ability to do work, if that makes any sense. I'm trying to simplify it, but yeah, that's basically what energy is. Okay, so I'll give everyone a few minutes to just type, or sorry, write all of these notes down. So I want everyone to write these notes down, and it should take about 3 or 4 minutes. So yeah, give everyone a few minutes. Okay, and the another thing about energy is that it's basically a type of thing, right? Or it's basically like the force, a type of force, right? That basically cause things to move and cause things to change, right? And you guys can see how like when you move around, right, you're basically using energy, right? So yeah, and light energy, right? Light energy is just energy from like the sun and like the light bulb above us, like right, this light bulb above me. Light energy is hitting my skin. That's basically how energy works. So if that makes sense, then that's good. If you guys have any more questions, I can answer them. So yeah, when you guys hear the word energy, just think of it as like the ability to do work, right? The ability to make things change, the ability to move things around. That's basically what energy is. So when you hear that word in the future, just just remember that energy is the ability to do work, right? And I'm pretty sure everyone knows what that means. The ability to do work basically just means like the ability to move things around and to change something, right? Like change something's shape or change something like where it's located. So yeah. Okay, so I'll give everyone 2 more minutes to write everything down. And again, you guys don't have to write down everything because, and then again, note taking is not about copying everything down. It's about simplifying something, right? Getting the main idea of everything. So basically what I mean is that just take down the important stuff. Take notes of the important things and leave out the less important stuff because you guys don't really have all the time in the world to look back at your notes and read everything. And it's going to be very difficult to read your notes if you write down literally everything that you see. So that's why I ask everyone to simplify everything and just write down the things that are important to you. Write down the things that you may need to remember in the future. Um, that's basically how note taking works. All right. I want to check in with everyone. Is everyone done with their note taking? Oops, sorry. Okay, so we'll move on now. Sure. Okay. So glucose. All right. So we talked about what energy is. Now we're going to talk about how energy is made. Okay. So I know there's a lot of words here, but don't worry. I will simplify everything, and essentially there's some things that I'll tell you to write down, some things that you don't need to write down. Okay. So let's talk about this. Okay, what is glucose? Glucose is just a fancy name for sugar, right? Or specifically, it's a type of sugar. There's different types of sugar, but glucose is the one that the body uses to make energy. So what does, no, okay, sorry about that. Yeah, so what does glucose do? So glucose, it's a main energy source, right? We use this to make energy. Um, and it keeps our body alive and it tastes sweet, right, to us. And the reason why it tastes sweet is because is because humans need it to survive, right? Our body have basically evolved to make it taste sweet so that we like it and we could eat more of it so that we, don't die from energy starvation. Okay.
And blood sugar amounts.
Yeah. So yeah, your blood sugar amount, that's basically to basically measures blood sugar amount. Blood sugar basically just means like the measurement for like how much sugar is in your body or like in your blood. And if it's too high, it's bad. If it's too low, then it's also bad. And then again, if you look down here in the bottom right, bottom left corner, it says here, if you consume more glucose, aka sugar, than your body needs, your body will store the glucose as fat to be used later. So this is why you shouldn't eat too much sugar, or else it would be unhealthy. Um, so yeah, that's basically it. That's basically it for the slice. So glucose, it's the main thing that your body does, the body uses to make energy, right? And we'll talk more about how that energy is made in a few slides here. But just know that glucose is used to make energy, and glucose is a type of sugar, all right? So I'll give everyone a few minutes to do that. And then again, it says here, body fat is bad for you, right? The reason why if you have too much fat in your body, it's bad for you because, diabetes, heart disease, all of that. Basically, the excess fat puts stress on your body, right? There's more weight, which means that your heart has to work harder and your joints have to work harder also. And usually, if there's more fat in your body, right, from like glucose, it would mean that there's more sugar in your blood. And high blood sugar is bad for you because it basically decreases your blood flow to a lot of your bodies. So if you have too much blood in your bodies, your your heart would basically like sort of need to work harder to pump blood because blood will be like your blood pressure will be lower, right? That's what sugar does. And because your blood pressure is lower, that means you will have less blood going to your arms and legs, which means that sometimes your arms, like your hands and your feet may die, right? Like literally, if you have diabetes, there's a chance that basically your hands and feet, like the cells in your hands and feet starts to die, which makes your hands and feet turn black. This is why diabetes is like really, really bad. So you shouldn't eat too much sugar. So remember that. You do need sugar to survive, right? Like glucose to survive, but don't eat too much of it. And then again, there's also different types of sugars, and also your body also uses proteins to like make energy and stuff. So yeah, your body doesn't just use glucose to make energy, but your body can also use fats and proteins and other things that you eat to make energy. So glucose isn't the only source of energy for your body, but I'm pretty sure your body does convert the protein and the other things into glucose or something like that, and then they turn into energy. So yeah, and another reason why your body or every single organism chooses to basically use glucose as a type of energy source is because glucose is a pretty high energy molecule, which means that it has a lot of energy in them, right? Glucose, this funny little guy over here, right? This white sugar, it has a lot of energy in them, which is why every single organism choose to use glucose to basically make energy out of it or use energy out of it. All right. And then again, I want everyone to just sort of write down this part. Other parts, it's not that important, but you guys can write that down. But yeah, I'll give everyone a few minutes to do that. And then we can move on to how our cells make energy. All right. Is there anyone who still needs more time? Okay, we'll move on. Okay, so how is glucose processed? Like, how is glucose turned into energy? So we talked before that mitochondria is the organelle inside of your cell that makes energy, right? Um, right? Basically, that just means that glucose or sugar is turned into energy inside of the mitochondria, right? So this is what the mitochondria looks like. You guys can see there's like a lot of parts to it. So some of the things you have learned, like DNA, ribosome, membrane, right? But some things you guys haven't learned, matrix and cristae. So you guys don't have to remember what these things are because they're not really that important in this class. But I'll just go briefly over them. You guys don't have to take notes on these, obviously. But essentially, the matrix is the inner part. It's hollow, the inner part of the mitochondria. The cristae are these little rods, right? They look like rods. They're basically um so cristae, right? They're these little rods, these little membranes. Um, so the reason why mitochondria have these inside of the cells or inside of them, right? These cristae, is because it allows the inside to have more surface area, to basically have more like surface area. If you guys know what surface area is, basically it's like the area of a surface, basically what surface area is. So that allows it to have more surface area so that it can have more reactions going on. Okay, that's a lot of words, but and then again, that's why this part of the mitochondria, the crystal, and the matrix is not that important in this class. We'll just talk about how mitochondria makes energy from sugar. Okay, if you guys take a look at the bottom over here, this is called cellular respiration. That cellular respiration basically just means using oxygen and turning glucose into energy, right? Turning your food with oxygen into usable energy. Now, the cellular respiration, aka when cells turn sugar into energy, right? They start out with glucose, which is sugar, and oxygen that you breathe in. And they sort of combine these two things together to form carbon dioxide, water, and ATP. And of course, there are more things inside of this whole reaction, but we're only going to talk about these main one, two, three, four, five molecules, five stuff, right? These five things that we're going to talk about. So yeah, just remember glucose plus oxygen turns into carbon dioxide and water and ATP. All right, I forgot to talk to you guys about what ATP is. ATP is energy. All right. So just remember ATP is energy, and we'll talk more about how. All right. So I'll give everyone a few minutes to just write these things down too. And this basically just explains the formula for how energy is created and where energy is created. All right. So I'll give everyone a few minutes to do this. All right, that was a long time because I wanted you guys to basically just review your notes. But yeah, we'll move on now. Okay, so what is ATP? So this is what ATP looks like. It's this cool little shape, and the mitochondria turns sugar into ATP by breaking down the sugar and adding extra stuff to it. Now, the thing is about ATP is actually wait, I forgot. Oh, sorry. Give me 1 second. I'm not sure if my equation is outdated. Okay, never mind. It is good. Okay. Sorry about that. Okay. So this is what ATP is. ATP is this funny little molecule, right? It looks pretty awesome. You guys can still see here that there's the sugar is still here, but it's a different type of sugar, right? The glucose turned into a different type of sugar. Also, someone just joined. Hello, sorry, not Jacob. Hello, Mason. So welcome. You're a little bit late, but that's okay. Just next time, or it's okay this time. So yeah, it'll be okay next time also. Okay, sorry. Anyways, okay. So welcome to this class. So right now we are going to end soon, but you could like sort of tag along in this lesson. I'll have the lesson link in here so you could take notes on the previous slides. Okay, so back to ATP. So you guys can see here, ATP has this sugar at the bottom. This sugar is not the same as glucose. It's a different type of sugar. It's a smaller sugar. And you guys can also see here these three little purple dots. Okay, this one is not that important, so don't worry about adenine for now. So these little purple dots, right? They're called phosphates. So the phosphates over here, right? They kind of look like this, right? But this is just like a more simplified, right? This structure is a more simplified structure, but essentially, um, the phosphates, right? The P's, the circles at the very end, the tail, all right, let's just call it the tail of an ATP, is where the energy is stored, right? That's where the energy is, right? Your body turns the glucose, they put the energy in here, right? Now, it's basically just breaking down sugar and adding extra stuff to it. That's basically what ATP is, or sorry, cellular respiration is, right? Making energy. Your body basically take glucose, which is a pretty big sugar molecule, they break it down into smaller pieces and add more stuff to it. That's how energy is made, right? This is energy. This is, or specifically, this is a substance of a molecule that holds a lot of energy in it. The tails. And how it does this is it breaks off one of the phosphate, breaks off one of the circle, only one, and that creates energy. And that energy is released to make the cells move and do other things. And now the ATP, right? When the phosphate sort of breaks off, that's basically energy being made. Now it's a little bit more complicated than just breaking off the tail and then the energy is used to make things move. Your cells actually have to take that phosphate, right? The little circle, they have to take the circle and put it in um like another area, right? An area where like things need to move. So let's say you have a protein, right? And then the protein is just something that helps your body to do things. Yeah, let's say you have a transport protein. What is a transport protein? A transport protein basically moves things around, moves nutrients around, like ATP and glucose and stuff, right? Um, so how does that transport protein move? You have to use energy to move it. So your
What does
body,
it turn into after when one of the phosphate breaks off?
right? So I'll talk about more of that after, but let me just talk about how your body uses the phosphate, right? The energy from the phosphate to basically
假设这是
okay. But anyways, so yeah, I'll talk about what ATP turns into after the phosphate is gone. But for now, I just want to let you guys know how this energy is used. So let's say you have like a thing in the cell, right? A thing in the cell, like a type of substance in the cell that basically moves things around. So um, how does that thing move around? Or how does that thing use the energy from the ATP molecule to move around, right? So let me show you an example. So let's say, right, these transport proteins, they move stuff around, right? They're in the cell membrane and they let stuff move through it, right? So these are a little bit complicated, but essentially, oh yeah, like this, right? Um, Basically, this protein takes these little things and they move them into the cell. How does this thing move? Well, basically, they use the phosphate group, right? They use the phosphate over here, right? And they attach this to the protein, and that's how the protein moves. Because the energy isn't just released and used by the cell. The energy goes into the phosphate, and the phosphate is basically put onto this protein, and the protein moves, right? That's how it works. So just to review, your body, they get glucose, they get sugar, which is this thing, right? You eat sugar, your body turns it into this thing, right? This is something that is happening in your body right now. They're turning sugar into ATP. And ATP, when you move around, right? When you move your muscles around, your muscles are moving, right? And your muscles move because the phosphate, this little tail over here gets broken off and it creates energy, right? So that's pretty awesome. So this is all happening in your body when you move around. When you move around, ATP is being broken down and the energy is being used. Okay. Now, Lucas asked an amazing question saying, what happens to the phosphate? What happens to the little tail, right? The little P, the phosphate, the little circle. So ATP becomes something
It
else.
gets
ATP,
broken, then and what does it become after it's broken off?
right. So when it breaks off, right? When it basically gets removed, ATP turns into something called ADP, right? So you guys could think of it like ATP, right? This is ATP, right? You can see the three little tails. Um, this is a charged battery, right? You can think of ATP as a battery, right? When it has the three little tails, the three little circles, it's a full battery. It has the most energy. It has a lot of energy in it. Now, um, when the ATP releases energy, right? When it breaks off the little phosphate, the little circle over here, it becomes ADP, which is a dead battery. It has no energy in it, right? And basically, that's how it works. And then again, ADP can become a charged battery again by reattaching this phosphate into the ATP again, right? So yeah, that's basically how it works. And your body has to use more ATP or other types of energy to basically make ATP again. Now, the thing is, sugar, right? When sugar is broken down to make ATP, um, some of the energy is used to basically make the ADP turn back into ATP, right? It's a cycle, right? It's a really, really big cycle, and you guys will learn more about this cycle later on in like middle school or like high school or something like that. And they'll teach you what this cycle is. Okay, so yeah, that's basically how ADP becomes ATP and how ATP becomes ADP. It's a cycle. Everything in life is a cycle, just like how sugar and like how sugar is turned into energy and stuff. So, and then again, this is a really simplified graph, which means that it's really simple. It's not the whole thing, right? Okay, that's a lot to talk about. So, are you guys okay with this topic? Are you guys like a little bit confused? Are you good? Do you guys have any confusions? So you guys can ask a question whenever you'd like. Um, so I see that Emmer is putting some question marks in the chat. Emmer, do you have any questions? And also, I do want everyone to sort of take down these notes, or just these, right? Your cell breaks off the phosphate, which creates energy, and the energy is released to make cells move, right? I'll give everyone a few minutes to do that. Okay, so there is a lot to take in this lesson, but this is just a general overview, right? Just a quick little lesson about how your body uses energy. We'll talk more about this in another lesson next week. So if you guys are confused about this lesson, don't worry because we're going to have more lessons that explain this, right? So next week, I am hoping that we go back to talk more about ATP and stuff, right? And then again, this is, I guess, a little bit confusing to you guys, but don't worry because we're going to have more lessons for you guys, all right? So that like basically you guys will understand this more because next week I'll go more in depth. So it
And
really,
excuse me, 亲爱的 你说话的 excuse me，
yes, Lucas? Yeah, Lucas.
Okay, so last lesson you promised we could have a blue kit.
Oh,
And
Blue Kit, right.
you just did a GIMP kit, and why are you not giving us a blue kit?
Right. So I kind of wanted to do GimKit more because everyone else in the class, like the majority of the class, they also wanted to do GimKit. So only for this class, we're gonna do only for this class we'll do a round of or for this lesson we'll do a round of GimKit, right? So only for this lesson. So I am planning on next week to do Bookit because and then again, I need to basically satisfy other students, right? Other students in this class, they may want to do GimKit. Some other students, they may want to do Bookit. So the thing is, I need to basically do both GimKit and Bookit in the same lesson, which isn't possible, which means that I have to do Bookit in another lesson and the GimKit for another lesson, if that makes any sense. So only for this lesson, I'll do GimKit. Next week, we will be doing Bookit. So yeah. So if that makes sense. All right. So does anyone still need more time to write down these? And then again, I sent the link into the chat so you guys could just go back and look at the slides. So yeah, you guys have pretty good resources, right? So Emma said I don't get why the phosphate get released. So the phosphate gets released because it creates energy. That's where the energy is held. Energy is in these phosphates, right? Right. In the ATP, most of the energy is in the phosphate. Why? Scientists don't know. That's just the way that life
My
works.
iPad just ran out of energy. I mean, battery.
Yeah, it's basically like a battery. So, the reason why phosphate gets broken down is because that's where most of the energy in an ATP is. And
then because of dead battery, so you don't have energy,
yes,
just my iPad. And then
yeah, just like that.
and it requires to give more energy and assemble the phosphate back, just like I charge my iPad and then it's ATP again, just like a charged battery.
Yeah, so Lucas explained it very well. So think of it as like your phone running out of battery, right? Like you get a full battery, right? Full battery, 100% charged, ATP, right? This is the full battery. But when the phosphate group, right, the one phosphate at the end gets removed, the energy is all released to make the cells move and do stuff, right? That becomes a dead battery. Now you need to use energy, like from the sugar, right? When the sugar gets broken down, it also releases energy. You have to use that energy to put the phosphate back on to make ATP, to make a full charged battery again, right? This here, you require energy. You need to use energy to make a dead battery turn into a charged battery, right? And the energy is used from glucose breaking down and other things. So we'll talk more about how how ATP recharges in another lesson. Okay, so energy. So just to review again, and we are at the end of the class, we're going over time a little bit, but just to review again, glucose gets broken down into, or sugar gets broken down by the mitochondria into ATP. And ATP is then further broken down, right? The little tail at the end over here, it's then broken down again to release energy to make your cells move. That's essentially the main idea of this class or main idea of this lesson. We'll talk more about this in another lesson so that you guys could understand this more because this is only a fraction, a very tiny amount of the things that we're going to learn about energy. Okay.
Last thing
Excuse me.
Yes.
here.
Okay.
Last
So
lesson, you promised we could do blue kit and a gimmick kit. You let us did a gim kit at 9 o'clock, and why?
oh, okay. So we don't really have a lot of time to do the Blick kit today. So sorry about that. Very sorry. Um, because today's lesson is a little bit long, so I wanted to end like the game kit early. I forgot to tell you guys that. But yeah. But next week we'll definitely be doing Blick kit, so that would be very good. Um, so yeah, don't worry about that because next week we'll be doing game kit. And yeah. Okay, so yeah, this is the end of the lesson. Sorry for going 3 minutes over the max time or something like that. But yeah, you guys may leave now. So thank you all for joining today's class. And then next week we'll talk more about ATP and we'll be doing a Blickit review on this too.
Bye bye.
All right, bye Lucas. Thank you for coming to today's class. Thank you guys. Bye bye.
再没说完，老师没说，拜拜，好
Bye
说，
bye.
嗯。
Bye Lucas.